like I'm breaking boundaries in Mexican cuisine because I create these plant-based dishes that still feel like the traditions that we love now. You know, it's not just about the title of it being plant-based Mexican food. I'm just making delicious food, period. I wanted to be able to recreate the dishes that my family had been eating for generations, where they could still be plant-based, but they still feel so spot on that my family would still love them. I'm headed to the Genesis kitchen at Tastemade. I'm Jocelyn Ramirez. I'm a Mexicana. I'm resilient. I'm ambitious. And this is my origin story. What mostly inspired this jackfruit al pastor dish is all the taqueros across the city of Los Angeles and all their takes on different dishes from carnitas to al pastor. And I wanted to be able to create a plant-based version using jackfruit that felt just as delicious and nostalgic as the real deal. I'm Mexican Ecuadorian, and growing up here in Los Angeles, that means that I also had to navigate through this whole Chicano-Chicana landscape. So I take a little bit of all the mixture of cultures, not just from my family, but also like here living in a city like LA, taking a little bit here and there in terms of culture and flavor. The reason I really love to work with jackfruit is because it has such a meaty texture. So it's so easy to fool people into thinking that it's actually a chicken or a pork dish because it has sort of that like shredded pork, shredded chicken feel to it. It hasn't been highly processed, it's just been preserved. You're not getting all these extra ingredients and elements into the dish that are not necessary. A lot of people in my community are addicted to processed foods, fast food, to soda. What I was seeing in the community were all these preventable health issues. And really, I turned to food at that time to try to figure out how I can heal some of these ailments and more importantly, how to prevent these things from happening because they are in fact preventable. I want to be able to create something that get them interested in what plant-based cooking could be like. And if that means that I'm making al pastor tacos, which is what they might pick up on a street corner somewhere in Los Angeles, well, then that's what I'm gonna do, right? If I already know folks in the Mexican community love that dish, why not try to make it plant-based and see if I can get them to love a plant-based version of it? One of the main ingredients for al pastor tacos is achiote, also known as annatto seeds in English. And it's also the signature color for the al pastor, which has sort of this like brick red color. I'm gonna use a blender here to just drop in my achiote paste. I'm just going to put that in. I have my pineapple juice. I have my orange juice. So I'm gonna just open this up and pour this, look at that super vibrant red color. So I have some ground cumin here that I'll sprinkle on. One of my main inspirations in the work that I do is my abuelita. Abuelita means grandma, little sweet grandma. People oftentimes ask me, who did you work under? What chef did you work under? What restaurant were you working at? And I always say, my abuelita, you know? That's who I trained under. Her food knowledge that she's passed down throughout the years has really inspired and given me a really nice foundation on the things that I need to be able to create really delicious, nostalgic meals. To grow up closely with my abuelita and be able to cook with her on a regular basis was really the beginning of my passion with food. And once it's all fully coated, you can get to cooking right away. Here we go. We're gonna put our jackfruit right into the pan. A nice medium preheated pan. So we're just gonna cook this until we start to see some browning, until we start to see it get a little bit crispy. While my jackfruit's cooking, I'm gonna grab a pineapple and dice it up and get it ready to include as a part of the dish. So I'm gonna just cut off the top, and I also like to cut off the bottom. What you're gonna wanna do is use a sharp knife to just cut the rind, cut the skin off of the pineapple, and you wanna cut deep enough so you can remove all the little brown bits here, all the eyes of the pineapple. I decided to really become a chef because I've always been so passionate about food. I mean, I was one of those kids that didn't really watch very many cartoons, but I grew up watching cooking shows and I was kind of low-key obsessed with them. And my family always thought, yeah, it's her hobby. She's gonna do something else and that'll just be something that she's always interested in. But really, when I started to look around and see that my family was dealing with a lot of health issues, my immediate community and larger community, that I started to look into vegetarianism and later veganism as a way to use food as medicine and to try to heal all the ailments that we were dealing with. And so I really wanted to make that my full-time career. And I later transitioned from higher education and teaching university level courses to cooking and opening my own business. I think for me, what I feel most passionate about aside from food is to really be part of like building up people. This pineapple's role in this al pastor dish is gonna be a couple things. When you cook pineapple, it kind of brings the sugars to another level of flavor. So we're gonna include it in the cooked dish, and then it'll also act as a garnish, which will provide a little bit of like crunchy texture, a vibrant, fresh flavor of sweetness. And it's just an ingredient that is traditionally seen cut as like fresh little wedges on the top of your al pastor street tacos. So we definitely wanna include that in the dish. All right, so our jackfruit is nice and browned. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put about half of my pineapple in here, just to kind of get it a little seared. Go ahead and mix that in. My jackfruit al pastor is all ready to go, nice and crispy, and I'm gonna just set it in a smart oven and keep it nice and warm. Right now I'm gonna be making a salsa de aguacate, and this is the type of salsa that you would see typically on tacos al pastor. I'm gonna fire roast all of these tomatillos, some jalapeno for heat, and then I'm gonna brighten it up slightly with some lemon juice, some lemon zest, and some cilantro. For flavor, I love to fire roast a lot of my ingredients, and I just love the flavor that it brings through. It reminds me of being back in my parents' and my mom's hometown of Zacatecas with an open fire. Oftentimes we would grow things there, bring it back to a fire, an open flame, and cook off those things. It might be corn, it might be chiles and tomatoes for a salsa, it might be a variety of different things. But it reminds me of kind of everybody being around the fire and talking about whatever's going on in the family and just it being a part of our tradition. You know, I think about my abuelita and how she has now passed on, but I can't imagine what she would feel to see my book published, La Vida Verde, to see this cookbook published and people from different areas of the country and the world making these dishes that are hers. There is nothing like a freshly made tortilla. I'm gonna be using masa harina, which is a flour made out of corn. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my masa to a bowl, a larger bowl. So I'm gonna grab my hot water and I'm gonna pour that into my masa. Tortillas are really the heart of Mexican cuisine. You can't eat a meal without a tortilla, whether it is a taco or it's on the side and it's used to kind of pile your guisados into it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm amasando the masa, which means I'm kneading the dough. Or I'm gonna grab a piece of masa that's about the size of a golf ball or a walnut, and I'm just gonna roll it into a ball. And you could form it into a disc by simply using your top hand to start to give it a little bit of a turn, making sure that you're making the edges nice and smooth. And then you can transfer it to your fingers and use your hands to pat it until it's a nice, evenly sized tortilla. And I'm gonna go ahead and add this to a hot comal. So I'll give it another 20 seconds on this side, and then I'll flip it over. Whenever I make a tortilla, it definitely, just having my hands on the masa and feeling the sensation of the dried masa on my fingers brings me back to this nostalgic feeling of being with my abuelita, with my tias, and just making all these tortillas by hand for our whole family, just getting a meal together for our little community. I'm gonna start assembling my jackfruit tacos. And I'll pile my al pastor right into the center of the tortilla. So I'm going to start with my salsa de aguacate and just pour that over my taco. This is actually my abuelita's spoon. When she passed away, my mom passed this spoon on to me. So I use it every time I'm cooking. Some of my piña here, my diced pineapple, just to give that nice bright color. Onion, just a little sprinkle of onion. And I'll top it, lastly, with a little bit of cilantro. And this is the perfect taco del pastor that is going to taste like all the flavors that I remember. So this dish really brings it back to this deeply rooted dish that feels very nostalgic, that feels like home, that helps people feel like they're taking a bite out of something that they've been eating for generations. I think that this dish is so important to the work that I do as a chef because I want to be able to have folks think that eating plant-based in our Mexican culture doesn't just mean we're gonna eat a kale salad and acai bowls. It means that we're still gonna eat tacos and all the things that we love. And it's important to me because the more that I see our communities suffering from preventable diseases and things that we could work on, we can start to eat more healthy, more plant-based, and still keeping our traditions alive.